In all lands and in all times, men have been prospectors, seeking the treasures of the earth. Yellow gold, copper, red gold, oil, black gold. And resourceful men have built ingenious equipment that extracts these treasures from the earth in amounts rewarding to themselves and of benefit to all mankind. But a day comes when the vein of gold is exhausted. There is no ore worth the mining. And the oil well runs dry, for these treasures are not renewable. Once they have been removed from the earth, men must seek new veins of gold, new deposits of copper ore, new fields of oil. There are other natural treasures that men have found and have learned the secrets of their development. Through their knowledge and ingenuity, they have made them everlasting. They have studied the seed, how to make it stronger, healthier, easier to plant. They have studied the soil, how to make it more productive. They have developed new methods of fertilization, new ways of plowing to retain topsoil, new crop rotation to prevent the exhaustion of vital properties. When the people of the South count the treasures of their earth, they find in their inventory a vast area of forest land, green gold. In Georgia alone, 2/3 of the state is covered by woodlands, 25 million acres of trees. Some trees for fuel, other trees for lumber, some trees for turpentine, other trees for fine veneers, and the most ingenious use of all, trees for paper. There was a time when trees were looked upon as an inexhaustible treasure. There were hundreds of millions of acres of them. So when men needed them, they cut them down. They cut and moved on with no thought of tomorrow. In those days, neglect, fire, and disease killed uncounted thousands of acres. There are still lands like these to be seen in many areas, but they grow fewer year by year. Because modern forestry, and especially trees for paper, calls for a different kind of thinking. For the making of paper needs huge plants that can't be moved on. It requires thousands of skilled workers, the kind that build up permanent, thriving communities. It asks for the investment of tens of millions of dollars in buildings and machinery and technical equipment, and these must be sure of a source of raw material they can depend on. Millions of trees a year, not for this year only, nor even for this century, but for as long as men have need of them. And largely acres of trees in the same general area, convenient to the plants that use them, growing year after year, so that the thousands of workmen in the woods and in the plants may live normal, settled, secure lives. For such a program, trees for paper are not expendable. They must be kept growing continually, renewable as any crop is renewable. Indeed, trees must be looked upon as a crop, and so are harvested as any other crop is harvested. For growing here are more than trees in a forest. Growing here are useful products for people in all parts of the world. Products that provide service in 1,000 different ways. Products that provide protection against the elements. Protection against wear, against dirt and rough handling. Products that keep their contents clean and in good condition as they're carried to all parts of the globe. And dozens of special bags, window bags so that you can see the contents. Extra strong bags, handle bags for convenience. Wet strength bags that resist moisture, each created to do its particular job better and cheaper than it's ever been done before. And there are boxes and cartons for every need, savers of time and money and space, in transportation, in packing and handling, in warehousing and storage, serving many industries in many different ways. It is these sturdy and useful servants of all mankind that have their beginning here in the woodlands of the South. Small wonder that the proper care and use of forest areas have become the responsibility of every citizen and the first concern of a great industry, giving woodland owners, large and small, a valuable cash crop that they can depend on for regular income, giving employment to tens of thousands of people, providing a multi-million-dollar revenue in wages and dividends and taxes, and in the purchase of pulpwood that flows through the whole economy of the South, not alone to those who make their living out of paper, but to those with whom they spend their money, for countless businesses and individuals benefit from the people who make paper. So the story of trees for paper is an important part of the well-being of hundreds of cities, small towns, and villages, and the people who live there. It's a story of better schools, places of worship, better libraries, and finer public buildings. It's a story of more town and state revenue to pay for better roads and highways. It's a story of better living and a better way of life, and the kind of homes and communities where healthy and happy children of today can grow up to be the good citizens of tomorrow. The story of the Southland's trees is a typical American story where new activity in an area means new jobs and new skills for its people, new opportunities and new security, all because our American system rewards men who have the vision and the courage and the ingenuity to take the gifts of the earth and turn them into products that people will find continually useful. Products that become so regular a part of our daily lives that ordinarily we don't think of how important they are to us. We normally throw them away without a qualm because there are always more where they come from. But suppose someone said, "No more bags, Mrs. Adams. That's the last one." What a treasure that bag would become. Mrs. Adams would want to know everything about it. And doubtless she'd be much surprised to learn that the bag which serves her so well in Saugatuck, Michigan, started as a pine tree on the 1,000-acre tract of C.B. Jenkins in Liberty County, Georgia. To work that bit of magic, papermen must know a lot, think a lot, spend a lot, and do a lot about a great many different problems. Papermen must know what makes trees grow bigger faster, because this tree will naturally make more paper than this tree, yet both are the same age. You don't believe it? Neither did forest farmer Jenkins until the forester bored out a cross-section of the two trees. Here's the larger tree, and it tells its age by its rings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on up to 14, the age of this tree. Here's the section from the smaller tree. It has the same number of rings. They're both 14 years old. Yet one is nearly twice the size of the other. Why? Because one got enough sun and rain and other conditions for growth that would be true of all trees in a well-managed woodland. The other didn't, for it's been crowded in by other trees. If proper forest practices had started 14 years ago, these trees would be the same size. Remember the old saying, you can't eat your cake and have it too? Well, here's one time it isn't so. With the right kind of protection, with scientific selection and marking for cutting, you could keep taking wood out of the forest year after year and still have just as much growing, for the remaining trees will grow larger and faster. In actual practice, however, the cost of cutting has to be considered, for if the forest farmer is to use his land for the growing of trees for paper, then papermen must help him get regular cash income from his woodland. They work out with him the proper way of raising and harvesting his crop of trees. Papermen will know that some stands of trees can be profitably thinned on 5-year cutting cycles, others every 7 years. While in still other forests, papermen would advise that they be cut over completely, but always being sure that enough parent seed trees are left to seed the land. For here, as in most woodland areas, man counts on nature to get new trees growing. When the cones of the parent tree are fully mature, their bracts open, and thousands of seeds, each attached to its own wings, are blown out by the wind and sent flying out over the cut-over land, land ready for its new crop. In a year, thousands of new seedlings will be breaking through the earth all over the area. In 5 years, a new forest is beginning to take form. Another 10 years and there's a new crop of trees all ready to go to work. Green gold is the fruit of good forestry. Without good forestry, the land loses its protective carpet of vegetation and soil erosion robs it of life. Without it, we would lose the pleasure and profit we get from our furred and feathered friends. It takes an ever-growing woodland to protect the animal life of a region. With sound forestry, trees are a continuing crop, and when the cut logs are sent to the paper mill, they begin the journey that makes them of service to people everywhere. To such people, for instance, as Joe Valentine, who plays his part in the mixing of a perfect batch of concrete, but who may not realize that the strong paper bag the cement comes packed in, and that protects it so well, was once part of a pulpwood log taking the long ride to the paper mill. Part of the tens of thousands of trees that come to the mill from various woodland areas in the South to start the many operations that convert the logs into paper. Papermen watch over these huge barking drums that handle logs as though they were matchsticks. They watch over the chippers that reduce the logs to chips the size of a postage stamp. Literally, miles of chips like these move along the conveyor every day, providing the raw material for vast quantities of product and keeping thousands of people working in their job. People that control the giant digesters in which the chips are cooked down to wood fiber by dissolving out the natural adhesive gums that hold the fibers together. People that watch over washing and refining processes. People in control laboratories who add the knowledge of scientists, the experience of technicians to make sure that this step is right before the next step is taken. People who must know when, at last, the pulp is ready to become paper. People who send just the proper mixture of pulp and water onto the paper machine. Here, the suspended fibers flow onto a swiftly traveling endless wire screen through which the water is drained, leaving a compact mat. Additional water is removed by suction and pressing. The final removal of moisture is accomplished by passing the sheet over a series of revolving heated drums. These paper machines are the length of a city block and at once a symbol of the resourcefulness that men have brought to paper making, and evidence of the permanence and importance of the paper industry to the South. For of the 9 machines this large that are in all the world, 5 are in this room. Just as a matter of interest, the whole trip through the machine from wood pulp solution to finished paper takes just 45 seconds. For papermen must know how to turn out a lot of product in a short time. Enough product in this one plant, for example, to make 40 million bags and 750,000 corrugated board boxes a day, made of southern pine in Georgia and by Georgians, products that every day are becoming more useful in every way. Like the wet strength bags that Jim Barton delivers ice cubes in, bags that are a lot cleaner and simpler to handle than the old canvas bags he used to have to carry back and forth. And Jim, out in Dallas, Texas, can say thank you to Bill Roberts in Savannah, Georgia, who watches over the machine that makes those bags and whose skill and experience is such that only perfect bags are turned out. Here, the pine trees are transformed into paper products, and to help perform that miracle, there's opportunity for skilled workers in hundreds of different operations, making use of the trees belonging to and giving work to the people of the South. And because new types of products call for new machines to make them, papermen must be machine designers as well. So there must be large machine shops like this one in Hudson Falls, New York. where more skilled workmen are employed. Scores of expert machinists, fine craftsmen whose standard of accuracy is measured in thousandths of an inch. The machines are tested by testing the product which they make. And here in the laboratory, those products really take a beating. Dropped from different heights to find their bursting strength. Studied for vapor and moisture resistance. They're tumbled in drums to see how they'll wear, how well they will protect their contents. Asked to take far more pressure than any normal use could give them. And finally, inspection, inspection, inspection. Because under our competitive industrial system, the user is the judge, and only continual improvement pays off in greater rewards for everyone concerned and better products for the public at large. Certainly the public at large is well aware of the important job being done by corrugated boxes in carrying thousands of American products to every corner of the world, to our military forces overseas. But as Barney Brubeck directs the loading on a ship in New York City, is he aware of the fact these sturdy boxes now on their way to Johannesburg, South Africa, started as a roll of kraft paperboard in a box plant in Georgia? Perhaps not. But the widespread contribution of these boxes is no secret to the men who make them, who guide the paperboard on its way through printing, through slotting and scoring, through folding and stitching. They can easily see that the security of their jobs is tied up with great industries throughout the nation. Here again, we see our free economy at work, for ours is a system in which people serve one another, and in that interdependence, we have built a great nation. So it is that the people of Georgia, knowing the value of their woodland crop, cooperate in a statewide program of conservation and reforestation. Papermen set up roadside demonstration tracks where groups or individuals may learn the story of trees in their state. There are summer camps where young Georgians study tree culture and sound forestry practice. These youngsters are the foresters of tomorrow. Papermen provide interesting exhibits and literature for school use by both teacher and pupils. Papermen spread important information in newspaper advertising campaigns. They provide college scholarships and fellowships to assure a continuing supply of trained foresters as well as of trees. This is a program that looks ahead for many years to come. For above all else, the growth of trees takes time. You can't hurry the trees. It takes 15 to 18 years from the time the seedling pushes through the ground until the mature tree is ready for harvesting. Then the greatest danger of all, one man, one cigarette, 1 minute, and years of growing, working, watching become a blackened scar on the face of the earth. The man who starts an uncontrolled brush fire to clear his woodland property is equally at fault. For though he will claim no harm to the grown trees of today, he forgets that in the burnt seedlings he has killed the forest of tomorrow. To combat the ravages of both man and nature, private industry has teamed up with state and federal agencies for the benefit of the entire community in forest fire protection units, whose principal job is fire protection and control. Each of the 100-foot watchtowers looks out over miles and miles of woodland. 24 hours a day, men in towers like these guard millions of acres of forests. When a fire starts, the guard on duty can easily see that first sign of smoke, a fire just getting underway. He sights it with an alidade, a sighting compass that tells him its exact direction from the tower. On the map, he plots his direction line. Quickly, he calls a second tower to get its direction line. Now he plots it out on the map, and where the lines cross, there's the fire. Then a signal to the airplane patrol. That plane is in the air many hours a day, a means of fire control first employed in Georgia by the papermen, and then made part of the forest fire protection system. Now the whole system is alerted. There's a two-way shortwave radio in every piece of equipment. Mobile units, no matter where they're located, get their instructions by radio. The pilot tells the crews what kind of fire it is, what it will take to put it out, and how to get there quickest with the needed equipment. Within 1 minute, that equipment is on its way. Tractors are rushed to the scene. Backfires are started. What tragic waste, due generally to carelessness or what is worse, indifference. Mobile hose units go to work. New fire breaks are plowed. And finally, every precaution is taken to ensure that the fire is out. Prompt action like this saves untold acres of woodland every year. But despite all these efforts, fires do cause devastating damage to timber crops. And that's why papermen maintain large nurseries. And mechanically plant millions of seedlings every year. Why, in addition, they will buy millions of pine seedlings from the state and plant them in their own woodlands. And help sponsor tree farms where modern forestry is practiced. As you take from the earth, so must you give unto it, that it may yield its treasures everlasting. Growing here is a symbol of the American way, a courageous way that spurs resourceful men to make the gifts of earth available in more and better ways to ever more people. Guard this crop, tend it well, nurture it wisely, and in these woodlands, the people of the South, year after year, will harvest green gold.